Engine on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, Ron. As always, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. Doing well. How's everybody doing?
Good, all good. All good down here, sunny Florida.
Yeah, well, actually, we had a nice 76-degree day today here.
Nice.
Of course, it'll be 50 and raining tomorrow, but got out to enjoy a little of the sun with the kids today, half a day before the Easter break. So we have that. And then exciting this past weekend, little excitement, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, really. Right. Big shout out to the NYPD hockey team, right? It's been a long and windy road, and they were able to squeak one through. So very proud of them. I've been to a couple games at the UBS. I think that is that the old Nassau Coliseum, I'm assuming. No, something different. Yeah.
UBS Arena is a brand new arena that the Islanders that were built for the Islanders to be the Islanders' home team.
Oh, all right.
So that's where the Islanders play. So yeah, let's take a look at the final minute of the game, and then the excitement that ensued after the NYPD won. This video, Mike Freed's in the chat already. Good afternoon, Mike. This video is courtesy of Mike. He allowed us to rip it from his Facebook page. He was there at the game. So let's take a look.
Your final score, the NYPD 3,
All right, there you go. FDNY 2, NYPD 3. First time in 10 years that the NYPD took the game. Last time we won was in 2016. And as you can see at the end, I watched it a few times, and looks like, listen, they fought right to the end. They had 2 shots on goal in the last 3 seconds. You know, and the FDN, the NYPD goalie, I don't know who the players are, made some good stops, and then it looks like FDNY came in a little late, took out the goalie in the net, and then all hell broke loose. You know, listen, that game is always very intense. There's always some fights during the game, but that comes with hockey. If any hockey fan knows, you're gonna have, you know, if you have a hockey game and there's not at least one fight, you know, you felt like you missed out on something when you went to the game or you watched the game, right? You enjoy going to the hockey games, yeah, you know.
Yeah. I mean, fighting's part of it, right? I mean, I still don't understand it. Like, it's the only sport other than boxing where they can beat the crap out of each other. But you know, it goes until, right, some 2 guys fall on the ice and then the refs come in and break it up. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It
part
just
of the
looked like
game.
it just looked like too. I mean, I don't know what the temperature of the whole game was, but at the end, you know, once things settled down and everybody was standing up, it flared up like 3, 4, 5 more times. And every time I saw it flare up, it looked like, you know, FDNY were taking some cheap shots, some haymakers, you know, when things were calming down. You know, guys were holding each other and just, you know, at the end they're talking or whatever. I know it's over, and then all of a sudden a punch comes flying through where 2 guys are holding each other, and then a third guy comes over and throws a haymaker, and it all starts up again. So that part's not necessary, you know. But you know, there's always that rivalry. You know, there's always that rivalry that happens, and we came out on top this time. So again, thanks to Mike for sharing that video. I know John and Eric had played it also on their show, but I was able to rip it out of his
You know,
Facebook.
the only thing is now all those, you know, fire. It's in Long Island, so even though it's a felony assault against the police officers, I don't think there was any arrests. But I'm sure we'll know what firehouses they're at because you know, maybe a couple parkers issued after that. Like you said, the sucker punches are not what's necessary. You know, that's like, hey, just because you know, think you can skate down there and then swing at somebody for no reason. You know, I understand, but usually at the end of the game, everything's kind of quelled over. But maybe they're sore losers. Maybe they got mad that they lost. You know, it's been a long time, and that's just tough. So it is what it is, right? So.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you? One Eye Willie is saying the 7-month-old baby in the area of the 90 precinct was shot and killed. Did you see something on that? 'Cause,
No, I didn't see anything.
I did
Uh,
see an article on that. And I just got it. Let me see if I can bring anything up on it.
and while you're doing that, Lily's asking, is UBS in Queens or in Long Island?
No, technically it's in Long Island.
Yeah, all right.
Technically, it's in Long Island.
Now he's saying one confirmed baby DOA.
Yeah, no, that is true. No, I know that.
Yeah.
That the baby was killed. It was a drive-by, 2 males on a scooter. I saw the article just before we went on the air. Tommy Joyce actually sent it to me. Again, I mean, it comes to what we talked about with you know, them doing away with the enforcement on the scooters, right? It kind of ties in. This is the point. You know, you want to just give them moving violations, but they you know, that this is what a lot of people are using these scooters for, is to commit crimes. And you see one guy driving the scooter and a second guy is shooting off the back of the scooter, and the mom and dad ran into the bodega, and then the baby was in the stroller, and when they looked into the stroller, the baby was covered with blood, and they ran the baby over to the hospital, and the baby was pronounced. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Sad.
It's just, you know, yeah. So I don't know what the motive is behind it, but they show the 2 people. Yeah, gang violence, but yet the city council wants to get rid of the gang database. Exactly. So if they were able to identify, you know, through intelligence or whatever, who this gang, who these people were affiliated to a gang, because they found out who was being shot at, you go into the gang database and see who the rivals are, and you're able to deploy for to try and stop retaliatory shootings, right? That's like one of the
Yeah.
main things that we use it for. But if you do away with the database, we're not going to have that. We're not going to have that tool in our toolbox. So it's terrible. So yeah, it's a horrible, horrible thing. You know, it's an innocent life.
Yeah.
By
No,
PSA.
it's sad. You know.
Well, they're having a press conference, and Tisch and Mamdani are talking about it. Well, Mamdani actually went to a press conference with Tisch to talk about something. That's a change, right?
Well,
Mo, we love you. Shout out to Mo, we love you. How you doing, Terry? Good afternoon. How's everybody? I'm never mad at you, Mo. Come on, Hassan.
what'd
All
you do
right.
to him? What'd you do
I
to
don't know.
What'd
I
you
don't
do
know.
to
He thinks I'm
Hassan?
mad at him. I don't know why.
Come on, man. He loves you, he said. I don't want to get in between that relationship, so I'm glad he loves you.
One Eye Willie is saying it was gang related. All right. So yeah. So again, you know, basically following up on the things that we've been talking about for the past few weeks. You know, the New York City Council came out and passed what they call a watered down buffer zone bill. We'll get into that in a second. For protesters near synagogues and schools. It's just near synagogues, it's near all houses of worship. You know, basically, the council speaker, Julie Menon, put forth this bill. It's actually two separate bills, one for houses of worship and one for schools and educational facilities. And she wants to have the buffer zones, and this is in response to the two different protests that were in close proximity to the synagogues, one that we covered on the Upper East Side, and then there was one in Queens. So, you know, they're putting a bill out that basically is saying, you know, it was initially intended to establish 100-foot buffers around the schools and houses of worship. It involved, as it made its way through the thing, you know, they have committee meetings and they tweak worded verbiage and everything else. And after consultation with the city law department, right? So if the bill becomes law, you know, and how does it become law? Mamdani has to sign it into law, right? He's got 30 days to sign it into law, to veto it, or to do nothing. If he does nothing, it automatically becomes law. But there's two different bills. One for the houses of worship that passed 44-5. So even if he vetoes that, they have the requisite 34 votes they need to overturn it. But the one around the schools and the educational facilities only passed 30-19. So if he vetoes that one, they don't have the numbers right now to overturn his veto. But basically it says that the NYPD is going to have to present and post online plans for using a security perimeter and interacting with protesters and people entering a house of worship or school. At the press conference before the vote, Julie Menon cited the consistently oversized share of Jewish hate crime victims in New York and the desire to keep people safe entering houses of worship. We're going to get into that a little bit later too when we talk about the Jewish hate crimes and all hate crimes, right? It's going to be the second half of tonight's show. But what were your initial thoughts on this? And then we'll actually show the intro itself.
I mean, like we had on a previous podcast spoken about it. Remember at the demonstration at the 19th precinct, right on the block of the 19th precinct, right? And we talked about sight and sound and giving people, you know, still access to these houses of worship or to what, you know, wherever they're going, you know, and it doesn't even matter, house of worship or, you know, school. People still need access, right? So a demonstration shouldn't shut down everything. So just, you see on the magnitude of the demonstrations and the withdrawal of law enforcement, particularly the SRG, and it alludes to the fact that now people won't be able to move themselves. There won't be any type of control at all. And there's just going to be this mass amount of people just storming down the street. And when they get to the spot where they want to stop, they virtually have blocked off everything in that particular area. So I think it's important that they do that. I don't understand why they need to publish the plan. I always hate giving things out to the public. You want to put a plan together. There should be operational security, because there's things that you put out and things that could happen, or diabolical people could see the plan and say, well, now I know where they are, and now I know how I can react to some sort of attack or whatever you want to say. I would say like a terrorist attack or anything like that. But to me, putting that stuff out is ludicrous. But I guess it's what they would consider transparency. But to me, it's ridiculous. I think they should. If you want to tell the city council, fine. Then it's up to them to make sure that they don't flap their lips. But now you're putting it out publicly. I don't know. But I think we always kind of did these buffer zones. We always kind of did these means of egress. So where is this new?
It's 100% what I was thinking, that we have these things in place. We spoke about it when we talked in depth about that synagogue that had the protest. That was a scheduled protest that was handled terribly, and they didn't have proper pens set up for the protesters and the counter protesters with their sight and sound. Right? You keep them where they can see and be heard, and you keep them away from each other, so that you don't have confrontation. That's what we do. That's our guidelines. That's our policies and procedures. That's what we do when we plan any large-scale event, any small-scale event that we think there might be some type of conflict with. Any type of protest, you give them an area of protest to protest in. Now, with the protest settlement agreement, all right, now they can pretty much do what they want, and they can start taking over the streets and the sidewalks temporarily. And, we don't have to get into all that again. But, when you are setting up these details, you have safety perimeters. That's what they're calling for, safety perimeters, right? This is the actual bill itself, right? The bill required the police commissioner to establish a plan, like we don't have one already, to address and contain the risk of physical obstruction, physical injury, intimidation, interference at places of religious worship, while preserving and protecting the rights of free speech, assembly, and protest. The plan would include considerations for the New York City Police Department to use in determining whether, when, and to the extent to which security perimeters may be used to protect entry to the egress from places of religious worship. Now, that's the verbiage that they changed from that strict 100 foot. And for the communication with stakeholders, including the public, persons seeking to assemble or protest, and affected religious leaders. The commissioner will be required to submit a proposed plan and a final plan to the mayor and speaker of the council no later than 45 days after this becomes things. And the plan has to be posted on the NYPD's website. So basically, the way I look at that, they have to put out some type of operations order or some type of patrol guide procedure to specifically delineate how you handle the protests, which I think we have, right? So now we're going to call it a plan. We're going to rebrand, right? We're going to stamp something new on the top, and we're going to say, okay, this is what we do when we go to a protest. But that's what we've done. That's what we talked about, because that's what we've been doing for our entire career, right? Lessons learned, right? But we used to be able to control. We used to be able to be the ones in control at the protests. And now we have a problem because we have to give them more leeway. But again, people have to remember the First Amendment. The First Amendment gives you the right to peaceably protest. Doesn't give you the right to just protest. It's peaceable assembly, right? Peacefully assembly is in the Constitution. It's in the First Amendment, right? And that's what people think, that they just have the God-given right, the constitutional right to go out and cause this anarchy, and they don't. But the problem is we're allowing it, and the police department isn't interjecting and isn't taking the enforcement action. So it just gets worse and worse, and it keeps snowballing because there's no consequences. It's just like when you decriminalize laws because you're a woke ADA and you don't want to prosecute certain crimes that are on the books. Instead of, if you wanted to be a district attorney, you're there to prosecute crimes. If you want to be a legislator and change the law, go be a legislator in Albany. That's the big difference, and that just bothers the crap out of me, right? But what do the opponents of the bill have to say? Right? Opponents of the bill, including some councilmen, say it will limit the core American values of free speech and protest. We know that these incoherent bills are a message against dissent, in particular pro-Palestinian voices, in a moment when free speech is under attack. Councilman Alex Aviles, a Democrat who represents parts of Brooklyn, said when voting on the bill. Again, we just debunked that statement, right? We're not standing on their rights. We're allowing them to peaceably protest, to let their voices be heard.
Yeah, I also wonder, since it's submitted to the mayor and the council, what happens if they don't like the plan? Is it required that we redo it so that their likelihood, they have no idea how to make these plans? They just are going to look at this plan and say, oh, I don't think this fits. I think there should be more room here, more room there. And we've already, done our background checks, our intel checks, looked at the facility. It's going to take a lot to do this, right? So it's not just going to be setting up barriers. You're going to need means of egress, emergency, even look at New Year's Eve, the emergency lanes, all these other things. So, need access for emergency vehicles, everything else. So things that, like you said, we've done already. But now is the mayor and the council going to say, I don't want that? There's not, and then I'll go back to, New Orleans when that individual with the ISIS flag drove through when they were having their celebration, Mardi Gras. I don't know if it was Mardi Gras or close to it, but he drove right down the sidewalk because there were no barriers there. Who took those barriers away? And I think the police chief at the time, she said, oh, I wasn't aware that we even had those barriers. So that blew my mind right there. But these are things that we know what we should do and what have been being done all along, and now we're going to get second guessed on it. And to me, that is a crucial mistake, and it sets up completely for disaster. So I know you as a precinct commander and stuff had details, and you set things up. And now, how would you feel if you're going to get scrutinized by the PC and then City Hall, and that command better than anybody else?
It's irrational, but that's what we're dealing with today's politicians, right? Let's look at one of our favorites, Tiffany Caban, right? Over-reliance on the police will not solve hate violence. Okay. Councilwoman Tiffany Caban, a co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, said before voting, we cannot squash out hate through reactive domination and violence. The proposed bill doubled down on these failed strategies. I don't see where. All it's saying is that you have to create security perimeters. That's public safety 101, right? Is to protect and serve, right? So we have to protect the protesters. That's what you're doing by these establishing security perimeters is you're protecting those that are being protested against, as well as protecting the protesters, because you're going to have counter protesters. And even if you don't have counter protesters, you don't want conflict with the people that the protesters are there. They're getting loud. They're saying vile things because they have the right to say it, as vile as they want to say it, as long as it's not threats, right? They can be as vile and nasty as we want. We're going to get it. We'll show an example of that later on. And there's just, that's their right. And the police are there to protect them against people that may be completely offended by it and want to take inappropriate actions in response to it, right? And originally, like we said, originally it was a 100-foot protest buffer zone, and what that really a security, right? The buffer zone is now merely going to be required the police department to present a plan to the mayor and the council speaker examining how it will use security perimeters to address and contain the risk of physical obstruction, physical injury, intimidation, interference, like we read right out of the thing, preserving and protecting the rights of free speech. So how are you stepping on the right of anyone's free speech by setting up an area where they can peaceably protest and be safe? As long, listen, it's wrong and it's actually illegal if they want to protest that synagogue in Manhattan and you put them 2 blocks away. You can't do that. They have a right to peacefully protest, and case law has given them the right to do it where they are in, like you said, sight and sound. We've mentioned it. We've explained it in the past. They have to be able to see what they're protesting and be heard by the people that they are, well, the entity that's being protested. I don't see anything in any of this that has anything to do that steps on those rights. Nothing. You're just ensuring safety. Now, Julie Menon is I hate the qualifiers, right? But why is the paper has to qualify? And again, it's the people on the left that are qualifying her as the first Jewish council speaker. She's a descendant of Holocaust survivors. Okay. But so maybe that has gives her a personal cause to go after and to present these bills. But the bill was 44-5. It was passed, almost unanimously, if you think about it. Because if you think about it, what are they saying? And the comments from the people that oppose it make no sense, because the proof is in the proving and the writing. What is in there that says that we are trampling on the rights, that this is going to increase violence, that the police are going to be overbearing? No, the police are there to protect and make sure that you can safely voice your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're there, right? Just to keep the peace. So I don't understand the necessity for all of this. It's again, I've been at details. I've been at large demonstrations. That's usually done automatically. I've seen metal barriers down the street along the sidewalk so that people that, are walking and shopping, have the capability to go into those shops and things. So I don't really understand why, in fact, it's a necessity. I don't necessarily know if just because she's Jewish that she did that. It could be because of the rise in hate crimes that we've seen or that have been recorded. Maybe social media. It could have been because of the 19th thing where people weren't allowed to go into the synagogue. So there's other factors there that I see that could have caused her to want this. And could it affect mosques? Could it affect churches? Absolutely, unequivocally, it should. But we've always kind of had that, the way to people to get in and get out. I mean, I don't understand it. And if we're just going to give them the street and let people just take over, well, that's not right either, right? Like you said, it has to be peaceful. It has to be, sight and sound will allow that. But it shouldn't disturb the residents and the visitors of New York City as well. It shouldn't be like that. But you see it all the time when they just take over the street. I've been on demonstrations where, you basically you hear on the radio, we lost Fifth Avenue, and that's what it is, and that's when we would go on the streets that parallel it. So because there's no way you could even get in there, right? So it's very difficult. And then what happens if somebody breaches these safe zones? Is an arrest going to be affected? And is an arrest going to be prosecuted? You spoke about in Manhattan, you spoke about a DA who was a politician or really a lawmaker, like you said. He puts lines through laws that he doesn't like. It says we're not enforcing that.
Day one, he put out that memo of the crimes that he's not going to prosecute.
Yeah, exactly.
Insane.
Imagine. I don't understand how that hasn't been brought forth in court and everywhere else. That's where the lack of the unions are, right? Where like the unions, that coalition of unions, it should have been, let's put all the unions together and say, let's bring this and take it to a court and say, this is illegal. How can you do this? How can you say that you're not going to prosecute the things that are in the penal law, for crying out loud? I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, you're just burdening the cops and saying, oh, we're not going to do that. So what? The police officer should not enforce it. You and I have spoken about that before. You should still make the arrest. Who gives a rat's ass if they don't prosecute it? But you know what? It's ridiculous that they just kind of push it out of the way. So what's the recourse if somebody does this? Somebody violates these areas. What is the recourse then? Warn and admonish. Pat on the back. You got to get out of here. And that's if they want to go. And they're not gonna. So
right. And what are you even calling them for? Disorderly conduct? Yeah. They get them for trespass unless they're on real property, right? Obstructing governmental administration, you're pushing it.
Right.
I mean, look at the summer of 2020. They refused to prosecute the Bronx, Manhattan, refused to prosecute any of those cases for riot, disorderly conduct, OGA, anything. All of those cases were just dismissed.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And quick shout out. We'll get it again at the end. 516 Diecast 199 for a super chat. President Duty submitted my 28. Another great show. You're over 30 minutes, so I'm taking the 28.
Oh no, he 51 Diecast is here every time early. You got to account for all the time he's early, so it's a watch.
Did he call ahead? Did he call ahead? He was stuck in traffic. All right.
I'm gonna be like, yeah, he did. I got the call.
We'll give it to him. He called the desk. I got you. He was waiting outside a roll call. He didn't want to come in and interrupt my roll call.
Exactly. They want to disrupt it.
That's what. Hey, listen. That was the thing with me. If you're late and roll call starts, wait outside. Don't walk in. Two things. You're interrupting my roll
why,
call.
Right? Like you have 20 heads all look at the door.
Right. You're interrupting my roll call, and number two, you're bringing attention to yourself. You're kind of taking away a little discretion because now everybody knows you were late.
Exactly.
And if Rob gets a minor violation or craft or whatever you call it now for being late for roll call, well, why didn't Ron get it when everybody saw him walk in late? Yeah, if you're waiting outside till after roll call, maybe I had you doing something. Maybe the desk asked you to do something before roll call.
Yeah,
and then once roll call starts, don't come in.
Back in the old days.
Sleepy Joe, it depends. Not all places have back doors.
That's true too. Yeah.
Not all muscle rooms have back doors that you can sneak into.
Back in the old days, you go to the radio room you get the radio for the sergeant and say, "Sergeant, I got your radio." All right, thanks. I wasn't late. I was getting his radio.
Yeah. Oh, funny. We could tell some funny stories about roll call, I'm sure. Oh my God. I was in just a quick one. 70 precinct. Locker rooms on the third floor, roll calls in the basement, right? So one day I'm downstairs, but we had, 40, 50 people at roll call because we used to put out like 15 cars in the early 90s with the FTU and everything else. My FTU had 50 people. The FTU behind me had 50 people. So we had a large influx for 3 classes. We had over 300 cops. So you'll never see that again. But I remember one time I went down to roll call, and I forgot my gun in my locker. So I got my gun belt on, right? We had the 9mm. I got an empty holster. And one of the guys goes, "Ron, you forgot your gun." It's like a minute before roll call. There's no way I'm getting up to the third floor and back down. So I took my 2-inch out, right? Because I carried my second gun. I put my 2-inch into my holster. So like an empty holster wasn't sticking out, but you got a brown handle sticking out of a 9mm holster. And then, step third row in the back. So you have a row behind you, a row in front of you, and got away with it that day. But it's funny when they're checking equipment, as the sergeant's going down the rows, and then you see things just getting passed back and forth to people that didn't have their sticks or their flashlights or whatever they were checking. Yeah, good old days.
Yeah.
Good old days.
I remember when the shoe fly would come in, right? We had a shoe fly and it used to be on the radio. Well, when you were on patrol and the shoe fly was around, it was Geronimo in the 1, right? So that meant shoe flies in the 4-1. But the shoe fly did a inspection, and this Mac the Whack, we used to call him. He was a good guy, but he was a little crazy, so we called him Mac the Whack. His Indian head was broken off on his shield, so you knew he was going to get a hit for it, because this shoe fly was a real prick. He was going around looking for anything he could. So what Mac did is he took an old match and he put the match behind it so that it looked like the Indian head. So the shoe fly went past him, and then once he left, oh, we were fucking dying, because it was like, you got past the shoe fly, Mac. That was crazy. And those stupid things would, every time you threw the hat in the back of the car, those things would crack off.
Yeah.
So
what would have been funny is, as soon as he left, somebody would have just lit the match.
Little fire up there.
But yeah, you got there's plenty of harmless stories that we could tell. Things like that. And you can't take things too serious. It's things that you could never do today. Like I got into a foot pursuit once. I used to have an ankle holster. I got into a foot pursuit, and my gun came out of my holster. I didn't even know it till I caught the perp, and now I'm on top of the perp, and one leg is up, one leg is on the perp. We're cuffing him, and my pant leg is over an empty holster. Oh my God! Right by Flatbush and No Stringed in the 7-0, and your heart just drops. Like, oh my God! Not just that you lost your gun, but that the gun could be in the wrong hands. So we basically formed a line and walked back. And my old partner, who actually became my partner later, I don't think he was my partner at the time, saw my gun up against the bank wall right at the junction.
Oh, lucky man!
And it was still there. It didn't do the Brooklyn bounce, but he said he saw somebody hovering over it, and he went over and hip checked the guy out of the way and picked it up. So my gun had scratch marks. You could see it hit the ground and slid up against the wall. So from that point over, the sergeant never, TC, it was a miracle. It's more than a minor miracle, right? But from that point on, the sergeant forbid me to wear an ankle holster, and I would never do it again either, because it obviously wasn't secure enough, right? But I'd be walking up the stairs, all of a sudden, he grabbed my ankle and yank on me, to check to see. Yeah, I'd go down, fall on my face. But I didn't get written up or anything for it that day, But could you imagine a sergeant grabbing a guy's leg and pulling him and making him hit this? The guy would sue. He'd lay there.
Now forget it.
I'm suing, blah blah. Back then, it's you take it like a man. It's it is. I'll take a yank on the leg than the hit that I could have took for not securing my firearm. That day.
No, remember the old swivel holsters, right? Those used to break off all the time. Oh man, they were terrible. Used to senior guys would have the swivel. You didn't get a swivel holster when you left the police academy. You got the old, and I was amazed at it, because it looked like there was no locking mechanism, but there actually was. But it wasn't something that was anybody couldn't have got. You could got it. But the swivel holsters, they used to break all the time, And then
that's what the guys used to swivel them up and lean down on it.
Yeah, I mean, they were nice for the RMP though, because you're in the RMP.
Yeah,
you didn't have that thing stick and you put it on the side. You put your nightstick between the two seats, and then or down on the right, on the left, right between the seat and the door. Yeah, and then you had a nice swivel holster. And then the other one I did, I was called into the 4-6 they do. I was called into 4-6 because I could print. So when I was in NSU, they called me in. I went to print the guy, and I went in and printed. And then I've told the story before, but I was walking down Ryer Avenue, which is the block that the precinct's on. And I almost got all the way back to my foot post, and I realized, oh shit, my gun's still at the precinct. I left it in the gun locker. So here I am in the 4.6 holding my hand over my holster, walking back to the 4.6. You know, you got
Yeah,
to play it cool, man.
I've done
You
that.
know?
You go into lodge a prisoner or something. Oh, the funny thing is, we're totally digressing, but that's all right. People like this stuff. How about before they had gun lockers? So a lot of these are going to be for the old timers out there. We used to go to the precinct and hand your gun to the desk when you
Yes,
had a
yeah,
prisoner, and then they had the big drawer behind the desk. They just threw the gun in, right?
yeah.
So I could tell story after story about that, but how about you forget that your gun's behind the desk because your partner's got the collar and they send you back out for something, or you go out for coffee or something. Now he's going to start the arrest processing. I'm going to go grab something to eat for us, whatever the case may be, and you forget your gun, and then you run out. You don't have your gun in your holster. Another time, I remember a friend of mine got involved in a police-involved shooting, and so they're starting the investigation. Another one of my friends gets a phone call. Officer, where's your firearm? And I have it right here. He goes, no, you need to come to work. Your firearm just got involved in a discharge. They both had the Smith & Wesson.
Mhm.
They didn't check the serial number.
Oh, he
So there
switched
was
them. Right.
multiple guns in the
Yeah,
drawer,
yeah.
and they just grabbed the wrong Smith & Wesson, or were given the wrong Smith & Wesson, and they didn't check the serial number before they put it back in their holster.
Yeah, yeah. No.
You know, like I can tell you, U495015. The serial number to my gun. I just remember it because you're always looking at it, because we didn't have gun lockers to secure your guns when we were cops. You just
No.
gave it to the desk and they threw it in a friggin' drawer behind the desk. That was
Yeah,
wasn't even
no.
secured. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was definitely true. Because I remember a couple times you always check your serial number when you got it back. You know.
Right.
So
All right. Want to get back on topic?
mhm.
So what? Let's get back to this. This bill that's been, these two bills that have been passed, and what's Mayor Mondami going to say about this, right? So Julie Menon, who again, she's the as of January 1st, the council speaker, says that she and Mondami speak frequently, but they have not spoken about specifically what he intended to do with these bills, and they're now waiting his signature. And again, he has 30 days to sign them, veto them, or do nothing. If he does nothing, then it automatically becomes law after 30 days. If he vetoes them, it can go back to the council and they can vote to overturn it. And then if he signs it, it becomes law, right? So a spokesman for the mayor, Dora Paquette, says the mayor is keenly aware of the serious concerns regarding these bills limiting of New Yorkers' constitutional rights, and he will keep these concerns in mind for any bill that lands on his desk. He wants to ensure both the right to prayer and the right to protest are protected here in New York City, she said. But just listen to the wording. Regarding these bills limiting the New Yorkers' constitutional rights. How are they limiting their constitutional rights? Their constitutional right is to peaceably protest. Their constitutional right is not to interfere with the passage of a person and block their passage into a house of worship, whether to go in or to leave. It's to peaceably protest. And it's been proven, like I said, it's been established in court, not proven, but it's been established in court, the sight and sound rule. And we've gone over that many times. But it just blows my mind how the left, and they're not even the left, it's the socialist mayor is just so against common sense, I think, and just it's one thing after another, and it keeps getting compounded. And like we said, this law, if this gets signed into law, or if it gets vetoed and overturned, or whatever he's going to do, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. It just puts into effect that the police have to put out a plan. All right, well, the patrol guide, right, which is the rules and regulations and the procedural the procedural manual for the NYPD is online, and it's there for everyone to see. And so having this online isn't really going to change anything. I don't think it's really going to give us that much of a tactical disadvantage. I think they already know what our tactical plans are, and they plan to circumvent them in their TAC plans before they have these protests. Because you're not speaking to an individual protest. They don't have to put out a plan for every protest and post it online. Oh, there's a scheduled protest next Tuesday, so I got to put a plan online as to what we're going to do for that protest. It's just a general plan. So to me, it's another useless piece of legislation for something that technically we're already doing. And again, like you said, laws are supposed to give you a bite for enforcement, right? They're supposed to give you some type of enforcement, power. Where's the enforcement power if they're not saying what happens if somebody violates this security perimeter? It's just mandating that the police department put one in effect. So, like, really, what's the basis and what's the end goal of this bill? It's really to put more layers on the police department.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like the fact that we have to present it to the public or put it online. I just think that's something that you shouldn't have to do, because if there's certain security measures that you put in place, if you're going to put a barrier here and a barrier there so that they can get in or out that way, and they can't get in the back because we're cordoning off the back. So then you basically know, if I'm going to be an active shooter, I'm going to go in the front, nobody can get out the back, or they're all going to come out the back and be put into pens, and I can kill them all there. So I just think you start giving out information that's not necessary. To me, it's ridiculous. But you know what? You want to put out a plan? I would, you put out a generic plan. I don't know if they'll accept that. Will they accept that? I don't know. And that's what I said earlier. Are they going to scrutinize what you put out? This is efficient enough. You got to tell us more, etc. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I think I kind of agree with what Sleepy Joe was saying when he does say New Yorkers a lot. And to me, that's when Madami talks, he always says New Yorkers. And I agree. He should say something like citizens, people, residents. But why doesn't he though? Why doesn't he? Because it's New Yorkers. Does he encompass illegal aliens and everybody 100%. Else?
If he says citizens,
right? You can't.
Right?
Then he finds himself up.
He's doing is he's cutting out the illegal aliens, right? These whatever we want to call them nowadays, right? They're illegal aliens, right? So yeah, even when you use the word resident, it's not specific enough, right? Are they documented or are they undocumented?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to exclude, because they are all part of his New York.
Yeah.
Come to us and we will give you.
Everybody.
Oh, we. No, not he. We, the tax-paying citizens, will give you. Oh. But we won't worry about the freezing homeless. We won't worry about anything like that.
No, lucky for him, the weather got warm, right? So there were no more freezing homeless. So, I don't know. I just think it's something that we've been doing all along. To put it in a bill, I just think it's an additional burden on the police officers. And I'll from speaking from experience of, let's say you have to deploy. Now with the plan, you're talking about a lot of deployment. Like, that's why I said in the past, up in roll call, there were and the detail stuff that was done in ESU was all cops, right? Because it was for the operational security. So I just think when you talk about deployment and then you talk about enforcement, there's too many things that are open yet that they haven't really specified. And to me, it's just setting up disaster. It's just putting another layer of bureaucracy for the police department to do. And then what happens if something doesn't work or that doesn't, then who are they going to blame? The police department, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's just to me, it's ludicrous. It's not necessary. So
I just wanted to welcome, I haven't seen this name in the past in the comments. Tamara Palomino Adkins, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining. I hope you're enjoying the show. Feel free to chime in with any comments or any thoughts you have during the show. And then Tabitha's saying hello. Hi, Tabitha. Good to see you in the chat. But let's not forget. A City Hall spokesman said the change in hate crimes account. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's for the next topic. Oops.
hit the brakes.
Fire that producer. We need Jack back.
You can't fire the producer now. The show would go downhill. Believe me.
Well, we have an announcement at the end in regards to that. But
That's it. Foreshadowing.
anything else on this before we move into something I think is actually more relevant and kind of more important, because I think this bill, if it's law, whatever, is just a misdirection of time, wasted energy, because like I think we've explained, what is it? What's the end goal? What does it change? What does it prove? It's something that we're doing anyway. So
No, I mean, you just look at it though. Look how they're chipping away, right? They talk about disbanding SRG, talking about, letting people do the protest. They're talking about now putting this burden on the police department. Watch how they're slowly chipping away. It's calculating. So that's all I have on that.
yeah. So let's get into the second half, and it's 5:57. And let's not forget, somebody brought it up earlier. I think Mike Freed might have mentioned this to you. Artemis 2 is scheduled to launch at 6:24 p.m.
That's it.
Just before the show, I was trying to see if I could stream it, but when I'm streaming it, it doesn't allow me to share my screen. It blocks it when you go from one streaming platform to the other streaming platform, because we were going to actually break away and show the launch that's scheduled for 6:24. So maybe we'll show it on my phone and hold it up just for those who aren't near something. I think it's pretty interesting. It's the first time in forever that we're going to have a manned. Well, when I say manned, there's actually a woman on board also, but a manned space flight to orbit the moon, and this is in anticipation to another live landing on the moon in the future. And that's the first time.
And I don't know if you know that this is gonna it's a 6-day mission, and they're gonna orbit the moon, and they're going the furthest away that they've ever gone before. I think it's 250,000 miles, something to that. So, and around it, yeah. So, and I just hate to admit it, but on July 20th, 1969, I remember when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Yeah, I was 5 years old. So
I was what date was it in 69?
July 20th.
Oh, so I was 2 years and 5 days old.
Nice.
I don't remember it.
I remember.
But I would remember it from 2 years and 5 days ago. So we'll leave it, we'll leave it at that.
My parents made me stay up. I was trying. I was so tired. They made me stay up to watch it. Well, I mean, thankful now, but that day I was like, my God, I just want to go to bed.
I remember my parents waking us up and watching on TV Princess Diana's wedding.
Oh yeah.
That was in the middle of the night here in America.
Yeah.
But I do remember watching that. That was something I remember them getting us up for. I don't know where that came from. But all right, let's go to something I think is it's pretty interesting, right? And the They're labeling it as anti-Jewish crime reporting methods changed under Zohan Mandami, lowering the figures of the NYPD. But it's reporting of all hate crimes and how the hate crimes are going to be reported in the NYPD. So when you first saw this, I got to bring up the article stuff. I got to load some stuff up. What did you think?
I mean, I wasn't happy about it because, first of all, you know, I know now that, like, in the patrol guide, like if you have a robbery or a GLA, grand larceny auto, they want the sergeant to respond, and I hated that. Right? I hated that. I hate the idea, the concept that they even did that, because they didn't trust the police officers to take the proper complaint report, to make the proper classification on the scene. Even though it got brought to the desk and the desk officer may have reviewed it, and then maybe, you know, up in the precinct ComStat unit might have reviewed it, et cetera, before it was even listed. But I don't understand why they need a method to change classifications. If cops are out there and they're doing their job and they've interviewed a victim and the victim has spelt out A, B, C of a hate crime, why isn't it a proper classification? Why do you need another unit, another entity that needs to go out and, what I would presume, re-interview somebody to redact or pull back on what they thought originally? I don't understand. And like we talked pre-show, right? That could be done anyway. That could be done anyway. So I don't understand why the necessity here. I don't understand. And the only thing I can say is, or I can see, in my opinion, is the spike in those reported crimes, and now a way to curtail another spike or to bring those crimes down. So
Yeah, so this is what you're talking about here, right? So after a startling spike in January, Mandami's NYPD changed how it counts anti-Semitic incidents. Now, watch the wording in this article, right? Mandami's NYPD changes how it counts anti-Semitic incidences, virtually shrinking the startling number overnight. Anti-Jewish incidents were up an eye-popping of 182% in Mandami's first month, with 31 reports in January compared to 11. Right? So in February, the NY changed the rules. NYPD changed the rules and started counting the crimes only after they are investigated by the Hate Crimes Task Force and confirmed as hate crimes, the NYPD said. Only 21 anti-Semitic crimes were lodged in February, 10 fewer than January. So, you know, this is, when you go on the NYPD website.
Let me ask you a question. Imagine,
Yeah.
just a quick statement. Imagine if every grand larceny auto, you had to get auto crime to decide whether or not it was a grand larceny auto. And that's where I see the similarities. You know, I just think it's stupid. But you have a great, post up there. You know, if you want to go through the actually what a hate crime is, right? So
Yeah, I mean, look at Housing for Life, shit camp response team. It's
that's
a
good.
It's
Yeah.
a new team they're going to put out there, right? So 92 Charlie saying does the patrol supervisor. I'm actually going to bring up. I don't like sharing the screen and doing it that way, but I'm going to bring up the actual NYPD patrol guide procedure that I'm guessing is no longer valid. But this is what's there, right? What's a hate crime? The Hate Crimes Task Force is comprised of a dedicated team of NYPD officers responsible for investigating crimes that may be motivated by bias and prejudice. The primary goal is to bring perpetrators of these crimes to justice, utilizing their specialized skills, blah, 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 right? So we'll bring up right out of here what a hate crime is, right? It's any offense or unlawful act that is motivated in whole or in substantial part because of a belief or perception regarding the race, color, gender, national origin, ancestry, gender identity, expression, religion, religious practice, age, disability, sexual orientation, or a person, regardless of whether the belief is perception or correct, right? So let's take a look at, I gotta share my screen, and let's take a look at what the patrol guide procedure says. And you got to follow the bouncing ball with this procedure, right? So it comes under bias motivated instances, 207.10, right? So it tells you what a bias incident is. It's the same thing as a hate crime, right? It's the same thing, except, they include the LGBTQIA plus instead of just saying sexual orientation, right? That they spell that out, right? As determined by the commanding officer of the hate crime. So a bias incident is never determined to be officially bias or hate until, right? Until the hate crimes task force finalizes it. So basically what we're getting from this report is that they're not going to report bias incidences or hate crime statistics until the CO of hate crimes completes the investigation and then says yes and confirms that it is a hate crime. But what was the way it was in the past, right? So they go through all these definitions, blah, blah, blah. But what's the actual procedure, right? So the uniformed member of the service, that's the responding sector team. Evaluate the condition and take police action appropriate for stabilizing the areas. That's if everything shits off the hook, right? Determine if a possibility exists that offense or unlawful act is motivated by bias or prejudice as contained in the definition of a bias incident. And then request the patrol supervisor to respond if a bias incident is suspected. Here, step number 1. If the cop doesn't believe that an unlawful act is motivated by bias or prejudice, they don't even have to call the boss, right? Because they don't suspect it's a bias incident. They can squash it right there. Patrol supervisor, determine if additional personnel, if the shit's even off the hook, right? Request the commanding officer duty captain to respond if occurrence is possible bias incident. So now, if the cop thinks it is, he calls the sergeant thinks it is, sergeant calls the captain, right? So the captain responds, and then he determines if a possible bias incident that should be referred to the hate crimes task force for further investigation. And when considering incidents involving public officials, you got to confer with intel prior to classifying. Now, again, I don't even know if this procedure is valid anymore. This was taken off the internet yesterday, and it's pretty much off the city's website. They're pretty up to date with keeping it up to date, right? Patrol supervisor directed a complaint report worksheet be prepared to include whether it was determined to be a possible bias crime. So if the captain, sergeant, right? So if the cop thinks it's bias, if the cop thinks it's bias, he kicks it up to the sergeant. The sergeant thinks it's bias, he kicks it up to the captain. If the captain thinks it's bias, well, that's as far as it goes for now. And it goes on to 61 and is listed as a bias/hate crime investigation, right? And then all they have to do is now call operations. This was always a trick question for the test, for those taking the test, right? If you think it's bias and you're going to put it down on a complaint report as a possible bias incident, you get a log number from operations. If you determine it not to be bias related, right? That it's not a hate crime, that the unlawful act and the crime that was committed was not committed because they were whatever, then you get it from the hate crimes task force. So that was always like a trick type of thing. And then it tells you what you got to do, full line, right? And then if it's occurred, if you referred to the hate crime task force as a bias incident, then you got to, do all this stuff. You got to do a report. You got to make sure that everybody knows about it and that everything's is good and you're visiting people and all this other stuff, right? So when you're reporting a hate crime, because I just got a text message asking if that's a specific offense, certain crimes, if it's motivated, if the motivation of the crime is hate/bias against a Jewish person, an LGBTQIA plus person, a black person, a white person, whatever. If the motivation for the crime is that there are sometimes in certain crimes a higher degree or a higher classification of the crime. Instead of an E felony, it may be a C felony or a D felony. All right. So, and then in sentencing also, they take those things into consideration. But, determining it to be a hate crime is not a definition, is not a defined crime in the penal law. So you're not charging someone with a hate crime, you're charging them with assault as a hate crime, which is a mitigating factor into that crime. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I mean, the procedure in itself is, I don't know. It's just, does it need to go that far? I mean, I don't know, because if a cop thinks it is and a patrol supervisor thinks it is, why can't we be just done with it? You have to raise it up to the duty captain, and he's going to decide, or the CO, and at that point, you think a CO or XO or a duty captain's not going to say, you know what, I agree it is or it isn't, because at that point, I'm sure everybody's done their due diligence, and they've gotten what they believe witnesses or anything else. So, but I like what 92 Charlie said. He goes, "Lieutenant's the best rank." I think these responded to what TC said. I agree right there. You know what? I know, although the lieutenant, the platoon commander, may have been the patrol supervisor or the platoon commander because maybe a sergeant was off or whatever, but damn, lieutenant is the best spot right there. He's not even listed in there if he was working, right? It's going from the cop to the sergeant to the captain. So it's a crazy thing. So, but I just think that to me, it's another way to drum things down. I mean, I understand all these steps. And that's not a quick determination that's done by the
No.
commanding officer of the hate crime, right?
Look,
That's after due diligence, and then their investigators go out. So,
right,
I
and
don't
like
know.
Housing for Life and 92 Charlie, obviously both are old timers, right? Call the boss. Yeah. How often is a cop going to say it's not biased? They're going to call the sergeant. How often is the sergeant not going to call the captain? We used to get these calls all the time. If you were working, you get the call. If you were the duty captain, hundreds of times in my 20 years as an executive did I get calls, when I had the duty or when I was a precinct commander or a precinct XO, and it got kicked up, and you'd make the determination, and you have to look at it, because there has to be a specific crime, right? And we're gonna get into that in a minute, but there has to be a specific crime committed, and the basis for that crime has to be because of whatever the protected class is. So if somebody gets robbed and they say, give me your wallet, your F and N. Now, is that a bias crime? What's the motivation for that crime? Is the motivation because that person's black and they're biased against black people? Or there's the motivation, I just want your wallet, and I'm just happen to use a derogatory term while I'm doing the robbery? And you have to make that determination, right? Did they say, hey, let's go get the N? Now, that is a motivation against the race, right? But it's just committing a robbery and using a derogatory term does not make it a bias incident, right? And that's another thing where you have to have bosses today that have to have the gumption, I'll use that word again, to make these determinations and to make these calls and not be afraid. And even up to listen, do I even blame a sergeant for not making that call? I don't. I never got mad unless it was so blatant I never got annoyed for making for sergeants calling up and saying, "Hey, boss, we got a possible bias," because you know what? I don't blame them for not wanting to make that. It's an important call to make. And you as an executive, that's part of your responsibility as an executive is to make the hard calls, right? So I never got angry. Let's not use the word never. I very, very rarely got bothered by my phone ringing as a duty captain on a possible bias incident, unless it was something that was so like, and I'd say to the Sarge, why did he punch this guy in the face? Well, because they got into a fight over a girl. And as he was punching him, he was calling him, whatever. F you Spanish bastard, whatever. Okay, but what was the fight over? The fight was over a girl at a bar. The fight wasn't over the fact that a Spanish guy walked into an Irish bar and the Irishmen all wanted to jump on the Spanish guy. So let's use common sense there. That's an easy one, right? Two people get into a fight and they just say something stupid, right? But look at where the determination gets made. Step 29 in the procedure. The commanding officer of the Hate Crimes Task Force make the determination of whether an occurrence is bias incident or non-bias incident based upon all factors obtained during the investigation after conferral with the chief of detectives. So they're saying now that they're going to release the statistics on hate crimes after it's completely investigated in step 29 of this incident, of this procedure rather, and the chief of detectives basically is conferred with by the CO of the Hate Crimes Task Force, determines it to be bias. So now we'll say, now we have a hate crime. So now we'll release those statistics. Instead of, like you said, any other crime. Any other crime gets put into the system. If the duty captain determines that it's a possible bias incident, the 61 is the complaint report is supposed to go into the system as a possible bias incident, which would trigger reporting it as a possible hate crime. And if later on in the investigation it's determined not to be, then a complaint report follow-up, right, a DD5 in police terms, in NYPD terms, will be done to remove that classification, and the number would be removed. So are they being transparent so that we're only reporting accurate numbers, so it doesn't look like we're reducing crime later on? When that's really not what they do, what you see is them reporting lower numbers, then the crimes get upgraded, and the numbers are higher later on, is what we've been seeing. That's the transparency, numbers shuffle that you see, where they're reporting lower crimes, and then you go back a week, 2 weeks, a month later, and the numbers are much higher because crimes are upgraded. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And how long is it going to take for this investigation to happen? So you have an incident that happens in January. And again, now let's get to, your deployment and how you treat these incidences. So an incident happens in January. How long is it going to take to work its way through the system, through an investigation to be determined possible bias, possible hate crime, for you to address it at the local level properly?
Yeah, I also wonder if the complainant becomes uncooperative after that. Now it wasn't a bias crime, it wasn't a hate crime. What I see is a systematic way to reduce crime up at the highest levels right now. I mean, in the past you could pinpoint a couple. We saw a captain in one of the districts, low end crimes, right? Recently, that's always been done in the past, but now it seems to me at the highest level. And what they're doing is, it's the same thing with like shootings, right? They're not reporting on shootings, where there's no victims, right? They're not reporting on those. Years ago, there used to be brass catcher, right? You'd find rounds up on the roof or whatever. You'd vouch the rounds. I don't even know if that's going on. But now, then I see, other things where, investigate DOA, right? That was another way to get away from somebody that's possibly was, strangled or something else, and you could hide that number also. So to me, this seems another way. And what I suspect is going to happen, and I hope it doesn't, but if it goes all the way up to the chief of detectives, you're going to say, "Oh, how many did we have last month?" So I'm going to not. This one's not classified as such. This one's not classified as such, and this one's not classified as such. So now the system has lowered the number based on the interpretation of that individual. So I just think that it's another way to quell the numbers. How about we do proper deployment? You know, fast reporting, things that were the 5 steps of CompStat, right? But here, to me, it just seems like, well, we're going to take a report, we're not going to classify it, and we're going to see if it is later on, and then maybe it is, we'll put it back in. And like you said, in a 28-day period, I could have a reduction in felonious assaults. I could have a reduction in hate crimes if I don't classify them properly. And then once that 28 days period is over, let's say I go further down the road, or I'm at the end of the year. All right. So now I'm at December, and then I go into January, and then I reclassify December's. Now my crime statistics are up, even if it gets into the CompStat, booklets, that my crime stats are actually up for December, but they're showing that I'm lower. So I mean, yeah, there's systematic ways, and to me, it just seems that this is a way that they're trying to quell the numbers that spiked early on in the year. So I just think it's craziness. So,
And what is
yeah.
what does she say? I believe in transparency, Tisch said. I also believe that the numbers that the NYPD were previously reporting were conflicting, wrong, and confusing. In my opinion, what we should be reporting on is confirmed instances of hate crimes. Now, what I think might be happening, and again, I'm going to take the
high road.
I'm going to take the high road here. Yeah, all right. And give her the benefit of the doubt and say that everybody is so afraid to make the calls now that it's not bias because it's such a hot button thing, and that it's so much out in the media, and because they're not confident in their knowledge of what is and what isn't a bias/hate crime, and what the motivating factors are by the evidence presented to them at the time that will be backed up by body-worn camera and reports and witness reports and whatnot, that everything, including the captain's determination, is probably being aired on the side of caution. And they're making things as possible bias-related instances, aka hate crimes. And then once the hate crimes task force gets it, they're like, no, it's not. So it's being reported as a hate crime and then being flipped to a non-hate crime because the motivation wasn't the bias or the hate. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm hearing is that it's a training issue then. It's all right. It's the typical NYPD training. Oh, let's not train the cops. Let's not show them how to do it. And none of that bullshit roll call. Watch the video and check it, or go on your computer and check the computer. I mean, check that you witnessed it or whatever. Start bringing some guys down to the police academy and girls and go through the procedure, go through scenarios. People learn from scenario-driven based training. It's that you don't learn from watching, TV. I mean, I did learn a lot from Bugs Bunny because it was a good show, Acme bombs and all that other stuff. But I think they need to bring people down to the academy, give them scenarios, and let them make decisions and tell them right or wrong. They'll learn from that, right? When I was in the police academy, I remember going to the shoot house. Remember on Rodman's Neck, Everybody died, but you know what? You learned a lot. You learned a lot about tactics and stuff, and it was a quick learn. But this to me is a training issue, and it's the way to fix the problem. So if the expertise is in the hate crimes unit task force, and they're determining whether or not there's, why not tell other people and train everybody so that when crimes task force gets the case, it's already been vetted from a trained police officer, a trained sergeant, a trained captain, and now they can follow through with the case, what they're supposed to be doing, rather than looking to determine that the case was in fact not biased, and we're going to take that number away.
You're
That's what I
confusing me, Robert, because
Yes, I know.
I believe that's what we used to do.
Yeah,
That's what the procedure is there. Once again, the procedure is already there. It's not being followed. Whether that's a training issue, which I agree with you 100%. People have to be given the training, but they have to be given the confidence that when they make the call, they're going to be backed up. But the call has to be based in evidence and fact and common sense, because common sense standard is what we look at in most things. But we all know that common sense is not that common in today's NYPD, right? Everything is fear-based because of the way that discipline is being doled out, the way that the officers are being treated, the way that you see how the politicians speak, you see how your mayor of New York City speaks about the police, even though he tries to soften it now, but he's not even doing a good job at that because his actions are so blatant on how he doesn't support the police. And we went over that last week again. We seem to be touching on it somehow every week, even though we don't want to make this a political podcast. But so again, like I said, I've never blamed when I was on the job, when you were on the job.
Yeah.
For all those years, I never blamed anybody for pushing it up to me to make that final call, right? But what I fear is that these captains that weren't taught to be good supervisors when they were younger, because they weren't taught to be good self-sustaining cops, to go out there and make decisions on their own, be proactive, and make mistakes and learn from your mistakes and move on, because every mistake is like the end of the earth. And that's how it gets treated, unfortunately. So now you have executives that could have 9.5 years on the job. And these executives are afraid to make a decision to say that something isn't a bias-related incident or a hate crimes incident, and they're the ones that make that final determination in the field and determine it to be, until it's investigated and overturned and a final determination is made by hate crimes. So I'm going to stand on the fact that I think that these numbers are increasing, and I'm not going to say that the incidents haven't increased because of the rhetoric that's put out there. And there's a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric that's put out there, and it's coming from the top. But, so it's possible that the true numbers are higher than they were in the past. But I do think that you have executives that are afraid to say that this is not a bias incident. And we're gonna show an example, and before we give how about we do this, Rob? Something a little different. Well, I'll preface it before we start the video. That the one that you sent me. All right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But let's look at why some of this might be happening, right? And TC is saying let hate crimes chicane it. It looks better than patrol doing it. Well, yeah, but it's not a matter of shit canning. If it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. I've always been one to believe that, it is what it is. If it's a hate crime, it's a hate crime. And let's treat it as such. Let's address it as such. Let's police it as such. Let's prosecute it as such. Let's protect the victim as such. Right? Just a quick shout out to
Thank you.
Ruben Alvarez, 6830. 1999.
sir.
Thank you for the super chat. Good evening, Chief Inspector. Great show today. I just pray that a second 9/11 does not occur, because if something does happen, and we all know how the folks at City Council is going to look extremely stupid.
Mhm. That's true.
You know, but don't forget that the day that Mondami came into office, he canceled the executive order enacted by former Mayor Eric Adams to combat anti-Semitism. Right? He came in and he said that's that, because Eric Adams saw there was an uptick, and he put an executive order out on anti-Semitism. Right? And his wife, which I don't really want to get into his wife, because as much as we know that the wife of the mayor has absolute influence over the mayor, it shows that they most likely have common beliefs. A lot of the things that she has portrayed, he has portrayed in the past, and is trying to step back from. But she's liked social media posts cheering Hamas's October 7th attack on innocent Israelis and questioning Israeli rape victims. Mondami says his critics attack him because he's Muslim, and that he governs people of all faiths equally, which I don't believe he has shown. I'm sorry, I don't believe that he has shown equality in his governance. I think that his response time to certain instances, as opposed to other, is just off the chart.
Yeah, I mean, you can give him, excuse me, you can give him a little leeway, but after a while, I mean, the people he surrounds him with, they should be telling him, listen, you got to go to this, you got to go to that. But yeah, when you look at the snowball incidences and what he said about that, and his response to the police officers that were injured, the EDP shooting with the knife. I mean, you look at those things, he's not off to a good start. And by making mandating this, it just shows there's a lot of problems within the city, and with problems with the police department, and there's no I think structure between the two to make sure everything flows appropriately. And maybe he saw that there was a spike, and he was like, I can't have this. And then all of a sudden, all right, let me look into it, and this is what she came up with. So I just think it's a bad look.
I agree, and 6:35 p.m. Eastern time is now what they're saying is going to be the launch time for Artemis
Yeah.
2.
I'm getting on a countdown. I got 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah. So another first time I've seen this person in the chat run, Lieutenant Dan, retired with 28 years. You all put on a badass podcast. You guys are the real deal. Love you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant
Thank
Dan.
you.
If that's you in your picture there, in your Marine Corps outfit, uniform, not outfit, pardon me. Thank you for your service to the country, your service to the community with 28 years. So thank you. Appreciate you for joining us in the show. And like I said to the earlier, feel free to join in with any thoughts that you have in the comments. We'd love to hear your take, especially with 28 years experience. So we've seen that, right? And then all this comes out, and then now this is where it comes in, right? City Hall spokesman says the change in hate crimes accounting was not ordered by Namdavi's office. That NYPD has made this decision without City Hall involvement, the spokesman said.
Yeah, right.
So what do you have on the countdown? 1 minute, T-minus 1 minute, 45 seconds. So let's not do the video yet.
I got less now. I got 1:14.
All right, I'm watching it. No, I might, maybe I'm not. Am I not live? Fast forward and rewinding is unavailable. I have it as 1:30.
I got 1 minute now. 1 minute. 1 minute.
You're 30 seconds ahead of me, bro.
Yeah, I don't know how.
I don't know. I'm watching. I have it. Well, you know what it is? I'm streaming. I'm streaming. So, yeah. I'm streaming. So, TV says 58 seconds. So, there you go.
I got 38.
35 seconds. All right, let's take a time out. Let me see. Can I put Rob up? I don't know. Nope. Not me. How do I do this? What did I do? Sorry.
There it goes. We have liftoff.
I lost you. There it is. Yeah, hold it up there, right there, Rob.
Uh,
Yeah, we're breaking for the launch, Charlie, just to watch this go up. This is kind of history. There you go. This is the first manned.
I bet you Mike Freed, John Latanzio, they're all outside watching it.
Is Mike out there in Florida? I thought he was here in New York.
Is he? I don't know. I thought he was Florida. I know he went to the game, but
I went to the game, yeah.
what happened there? Oh, that's a notification.
We don't want your text messages. 10 days.
Sleepy Joe saying that's Kaz rising up in the ranks.
TC, Godspeed to the men and women. A lot of balls and brains on that rocket. That is the truth.
Absolutely, man. Brings back a sad day when we're watching the Challenger. Remember, they're going up, and definitely true heroes. Amazing technology and courage, you know.
And again, I tried. I was streaming it on Prime, and I was streaming it on my FiOS TV. But then when I went to share my screen in this in the program that we use, it was blocking it from coming up and it giving me the ability to share it. There's Mike right now. All right. Looks like there's a picture from the actual rocket.
Crazy.
I got Marlon coming on with some all right. Maybe next time, Marlon's sending me the YouTube. Maybe if I was on YouTube, I would be able to stream it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I wasn't able to stream it from Prime or from my FiOS account. I was streaming it
So
on
that
my
just-
TV.
That just reminded me of why you need to be trained, right? Because you have to hold the gun out that long. You can feel it in your arm.
The trigger.
Remember, hold it out there. Yeah.
That's it. All right. Well, applause to
Yeah.
Nassau. Applause to everyone aboard Artemis too. Godspeed on your trip, and let's wish them well. Right, FiOS and Prime block the streaming. Yes.
That's
So, because I wanted to just stream it live, but we're going to talk about interrupting it. All right, so let's get back to tonight's topic. Thank you, Marlon. Yeah, so they can charge more. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
But what we're talking about, we're an hour and 35 minutes into the show. Let's, as Terry would always remind us, thank you, Terry. Appreciate your support. Like, share, and subscribe. We're over 165,000 subscribers, I believe. At this point, let me see real quick if I can get the 166,000 subscribers for the network. for the New York's finest retired unfiltered podcast network. So thank you all for that support. And so let's like, share, and subscribe. But as we were talking about the difference and the determination that's made as to why something is a bias-related incident or a hate crime, right? Which is they're interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the motivation has to be that the person was attacked due to their bias. And like I said, I think that part of the increase could be based on the fact that the captains don't want to make a determination that it's non-bias. So let's put out to the chat. I'm going to play this video of an incident with a Rabbi Shmuley in Times Square recently. And after you watch this video, chime in and tell us, is this bias? Is this a bias-related incident? Is this a hate crime, or is this not?
Should Jews speak up and be lions, and when should they be silent and be sheep? Believe it or not, that is the subject of one of the most important Broadway shows that's on right now, Giant. So John Lithgow, the great actor, stars as Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl is probably the most famous children's author of our time, but he was a disgusting, vile anti-Semite. He called Israel Nazis. He called all Jews complicit in genocide. All Jews, all over the world, non-Israelis. He was a pig. He was a vile, disgusting pig. And the question is, should we stock his books and read James and the Giant, Peach? Okay, that's a different subject. What's fascinating is,
Rabbi Shmuley is a Zionist fucking pig.
Yeah, get this.
Here he is, right on camera. Hi, everybody. I have no problem saying it. Rabbi Shmuley.
Say your name.
I'm Salvo, baby. I have no problem saying
What's your
it.
phone number? Say it
Why
all.
would I give a
Say it all.
Zionist?
Say it all. Say it all.
Zionist pig, relax. Why would I give a
Excuse me.
Why would I
Excuse
give?
me, officer. This man is attacking me. Right
I have it on video.
Right now.
I have it on
Came over
video.
to me. I have it on video.
I have it on
He attacked me as a Jew. It's a hate crime. He's threatening me.
I called him a Zionist.
He came over to me and I filmed the whole thing.
I have it on
Very
video.
well-known rabbi.
I just talked.
He is threatening my life.
No, I
and
didn't.
He has to be arrested, please.
I have it on video.
Please,
No, I didn't.
he has to be arrested.
They know who you are, bro.
Please, sir, he has to be arrested.
Rabbi
Debbie,
Shmuley,
get the whole thing.
what
Get the
happened
whole
to
thing.
dialogue?
Let's see if the
What happened to
NYPD
dialogue,
takes
Rabbi
this hate crime
Shmuley? Is this your
seriously.
husband? You let him in the street acting such a fool every time, huh?
Debbie, bring it here. This is what happened to me at the Fontainebleau Hotel. I won't
Nobody-
put up with it.
Rabbi
this
Shmuley,
man
why are
is
you
threatening
lying?
me. He is harassing
Rabbi
me.
Shmuley,
He's
why are you
guilty of a hate
lying?
crime, and now let's see if the NYPD
Rabbi
are going to
Shmuley-
do anything.
I have it on video right here.
Officer, I was doing a video about this is about anti-Semitism.
I'm doing
This
a
play.
video
We're in the
too.
middle of an intermission. This man came over,
I was at the play
attacked
too.
me, harassed me. He already called us fucking Jews upstairs. I have a woman who
No, I
witnessed it.
didn't. No.
You called
I'm
us
with my-
fucking Jews
I'm
as
with
you
my
left,
wife over there.
and he just attacked me.
I
My
have
name
it
is
on
Rabbi
video.
Shmuley Botev, he will tell you.
They know who you
You're
are,
very
Rabbi
well
Shmuley. They know who you are, Rabbi Shmuley.
And
You're
he
making
attacked me, and this is a hate crime.
You're making a scene, Rabbi
This is
Shmuley.
he attacked me, and this is a hate crime. Now, why did you walk over to me? Tell him. Why did you walk over to me? What did you say? Why did you
Yes,
walk
sir.
over to me? What did you say?
I said you're a Zionist.
No, you said I'm an effing Zionist. You started attacking
I'm
me.
allowed to
You
swear
threatened
at
my
you.
safety. You
No, I
are
didn't.
threatening my safety.
No, I didn't.
You invaded my
said
personal
he's
space
a
to harm me.
Zionist pig.
I'm
You
allowed to
said
say that. I'm
he's
allowed to say he's a Zionist pig. I'm allowed to say
My name
he's
is
a Zionist
I'll give you all my identity, but I want you to
Why do you escalate, Rabbi Shmuley? Why do you escalate?
Look at this, sir.
Why do you
Officer, look.
escalate, Rabbi Shmuley?
Officer, Jews have to be safe in New York City.
Sir,
we have
I
to
have
be
freedom of
allowed
speech.
to be
Sir,
safe.
sir.
Jews cannot be attacked because they wear a kippah. Of course. If someone's black and they're attacked, that's racism. If someone wears a kippah and he's attacked by an anti-Semite like that, that is anti-Semitism. These people are making it impossible for Jews to live in New York City. They're making it impossible to live in New York City. Our lives are being, and this whole play is about Roald Dahl. The whole play is about anti-Semitism. The whole play is about anti-Semitism.
One writer's experience of violence
Correct.
across the globe.
This man just came over to me and attacked me, and he's at the play calling Jews, fucking Jews on the inside, okay? And I have it all, I'm a well-known defender of Israel, that's why he attacked me. He threatened me, it's all on video. He won't leave me alone, thank God you were driving by. Jews cannot live, they're making it impossible for us Jews to live in New York City. They're making it impossible for us to wear a kippah. They're making it impossible for us to feel safe. What happened? I was here doing a video about this incredible play. We have to go back in a minute because it's the intermission. The play is about anti-Semitism. This man came over to me. It's all on video. My wife taped the whole thing. And he said, you fucking Zionist pig. You fucking Zionist pig. It's fucking Rabbi Shmuley, et cetera, et cetera. He got right in my face. And then, thank God, you came over, and I said, this is a hate crime. He cannot walk over to a black woman and say, if he was Klan and calling people black, he would be arrested. We Jews deserve the same protections. I'm sorry.
I wasn't inside.
We Jews deserve the same protections as any endangered minority. Enough is enough.
Just watch it. We'll see.
Enough is enough. Ma'am, do you work here at the theater?
I do.
And when are they restarting it? Can you imagine the whole play is about anti-Semitism, and this man is a disgusting, vile anti-Semite who threatened me, and he should be arrested.
There you have it. So there's an incident, Times Square. SRG. A couple people noticed in the chat that it was SRG that was responding. They were just driving by on patrol in Times Square. High-profile area, of course, and they get flagged down by Rabbi Shmuley. So here you have it. He's screaming and yelling how it's a hate crime, how Jews can't be treated like this, how you can't do this. He was attacked. He was verbally attacked. His safety was threatened. And you have these poor cops that now have to deal with this, as TC said, a shit show, right? So TC saying, it's not. He asks, where is the threat? QC Beach is SRG backfilling a sector. And Lily saying, I didn't know you could stop an RMP. Well, if somebody's flagging you down, that's, obviously you can't just keep driving. That's dereliction of duty. You have to stop. Sleepy Joe is saying too many cameras to 91 this. We'll get into that. Request a patrol supervisor, 100%, because he's so... Ruben Alvarez, one of our new listeners. Chief, you're spot on. Hey, are you a new? He can't.
Thank you, brother. Ruben Alvarez. Thank you, man.
Ruben Alvarez, that's a new name to use. The word
come on, man.
Come on.
See, even the new guys know.
Even the new guy from a new guy. Come on, it's a training issue. They just want to keep the boots on the ground. Stupid.
Thank you, thank you, Ruben.
It's 92 Charlie. It's a true shit show. These cops wish they were firemen right now. I laughed my ass off. Terry Manane. Squad experience, right? It's not a hate crime. What's the loud banging and the sound? I don't know. It's Times Square. Could be anything. These cops taking it. Spot on 92 Charlie. Call the boss. Truthfully, not a huge deal. 93 Charlie. Sleepy Joe says it's a 93 Charlie. What's 93 Charlie?
Complaint report.
All right. Brooklyn girl, New York City says it's a dispute, it's bias, and it's a complaint report. Sleepy Joe says a closed harassment 61. Do we have anybody else? We'll give it another 10 seconds. Anybody else have any opinions on what you think it is? No, Mike. Did they come down with a decision? I thought they postponed it till tomorrow. With the Dilla case. I thought Lily had mentioned earlier that it's not coming down till tomorrow. Lily thinks it's harassment. All right, well, let's look at it. All right, you watch the video. It's vile. It's disgusting. Okay. Oh, my. Not guilty, but guilty to a lesser charge. I haven't seen anything. Polonius Mofri. Yeah, that's for sure. That's a good one. That's an old school terminology, right? This is bias crime because Rabbi Shmuley's involved. Well, Rabbi Shmuley is trying to make it is trying to make it a bias incident and thinks that the loudest they're going back to deliberate, Mike said. So I guess the final hasn't come out. We'll have to look into that afterwards. But Rabbi Shmuley is saying that it's a bias incident, it's a hate crime. and that it's a hate crime, and making all this noise to the cops and everything else. So he's out there and he's making all the noise, right? So let's see. Ruben Alvarez is saying the totality of the circumstances in the term I keep on hearing a great deal of as of late, right? So 92 Charlie, these cops are not making it. And then Mike's come back to the police officer Dilla, or Detective Dilla trial that it was a split jury. So we'll have to, I don't have any information on that. So we'll have to follow up on that. And I'm sure that'll be covered on Friday on the day show. But in here, so because Rabbi Shmuley is making such an issue, obviously the cops are going to call a boss. I have no doubts about that at all. And again, I don't blame the cops, right? Bump it up to the boss. It's not a big deal. Bump it up to the boss and let them try to calm the situation down, right? Because when you look at things, man, I got to take Rabbi off. When you look at freedom of speech versus a hate crime, right? The First Amendment to the United States Constitution ensures that an individual can freely express their opinions, regardless of how offensive they may be to others. Distinguishing between free speech and a hate crime can be challenging. And this is right from the NYPD, people. While abusive or hateful language can be protected speech, a hate crime occurs when there is a criminal act motivated by the perceived identity of the victim. And what that means is if you go out and attack somebody and your motivation for attacking them is because they were Jewish and they turn out not to be Jewish, it could still be a hate crime because your perception was they were Jewish. Your intent was to attack them because they were Jewish and you attacked them. And they turned out to be, Catholic, whatever the case may be. For example, although offensive, merely calling somebody an insulting name, like a Zionist pig, or a slur, can fall under freedom of speech. However, if someone verbally targets a person based on their race and proceeds to assault them, it becomes a hate crime. So what you have here is disgusting, vile, freedom of speech protected activity. You have no crime whatsoever. You have no hate crime, in my view. You just have disgusting, protected speech.
So what I saw there was two squared away cops from SRG 1, which is in Manhattan. They covered a whole borough of Manhattan.
I'm going with SRG 2.
SRG 2 is the Bronx.
Yeah, but I think there was SRG 2.
Was it 2 on the side? I don't know. Well, they're in SRG 2's 1's area, so whatever, wherever they're from. But two squared away guys handled it appropriately. They pulled over, right? How many guys would maybe? I didn't see him. It just kept going down the block.
That's a 2.
Is it? Oh yeah. All right. That's not their area, but anyway, regardless,
they get deployed down to Times Square. It's not unusual.
They might be down there for a detail or anything else. Listen, I always say they're trying to get rid of SRG, and I always say they're a force multiplier. So look, here's two guys that are actually out there, driving around, helping the precinct commander or whatever, and they stop for this. What he says, arrest him. No, the cops. What did the cop do? He separated him. Told that guy to go over there. I mean, this is classic police work. The guy did a great job. He listened what was going on, and then he made the determination, which I totally 100% agree with. It has nothing to do at all with a hate crime. It was freedom of speech. people could say, well, maybe it was harassment. Well, harassment, you gotta, it's the slap, it's the push, it's the shove. Following around is a form of harassment. But those two were standing in front of a theater and just having a conversation. There was no following down the block or anything else. And clearly, it was, the Rabbi Shmuley was just looking for sensationalism, to get it on his Twitter page or his Instagram or whatever. And I have felt it was appropriately followed. I think those cops did an outstanding job. So my kudos to those guys. And yeah, I mean, what you need additional factors, right, for the classification of a hate crime. It's just not that vile speech like you speak about, right? Otherwise, if it was just vile speech, everybody would be getting locked up left and right.
Oh, forget about it. And listen, if he went over and punched him in the face after he said that,
different, yeah.
Now we're totally different.
Yeah.
Because he went up there and got into his space. Oh, wait a second. Is it a hate crime when you get into a cop's face and you're calling us a pig and all this other stuff? And you're calling the police Zionists because they're out there at a pro-Palestinian rally, and you're putting the camera right in their face, you're chesting up to them and you're screaming in their face and everything else. That's not a hate crime against the police, right? Right? Is the police a protected class? We're not a protected class, though, unfortunately. Right? But unfortunately, this is nothing. This is a 91. There's nothing. There is nothing to it. Look, go back to the videotape. Oh, I have it on tape. Good. Let me see the tape. That's great. Now, you have the tape. Show me the tape. But he's not going to like that. That's why I say, right? You have, like you said, you have two squared away SRG cops. I didn't look that close to see hashtags, hashtags. Hash marks on the sleeve to see how much time they had on the job. But you have two squared away cops that acted very professional. They said, oh, step out of the street, step back on the sidewalk. They pulled right over. They didn't say, oh, it's not our area, we got to call a Times Square cop, or we got to call a Midtown South or a Midtown North cop, right? They got out to handle the job. So they were very professional. They didn't get excited. They tried to de-escalate, separate, right? Let Shmuley run his narrative of a hate crime and everything else, and say, okay, what exactly happened? And talking in a calm, professional tone, whether they knew who Shmuley was or not. I didn't know him before you sent me the video, so I don't know. I looked up. I've watched a few others of his videos, and I haven't seen him get into confrontations like this, but one other time. Other things, he goes around and he talks, he's a social media rabbi. He's a legitimate rabbi. He is, an ordained rabbi. But to say, oh, let's see if the NYPD, this is my point. Let's see if the NYPD is going to do it. I'm a well-known rabbi. I'm a rabbi. This is a hate crime. I can see, obviously the cops are going to call the boss because they are not going to listen to these. Shmuley is not going to be satisfied with the cop's response. He's going to call the sergeant. Sergeant's going to get there. How much experience the sergeant has, I don't know. And then they're going to wind up calling the captain. And now, if you get a young captain that's impressionable, might be afraid that a rabbi is yelling and screaming hate crime, and may take the 61. It may take the complaint report. This is my point, to where if you have shaky bosses, right? Or you have bosses that lack the experience, lack the knowledge, lack the fortitude to make the correct decision and stand by their decision because they're afraid that they're going to get a phone call from their CO because their CO got a phone call from a rabbi, which we know happens, right? What happened? This and the other thing. Well, this is what happened. This is this decision I made. And you need the bosses to back up the cops, back up the sergeant. You need the borough to back up the captain, if the captain makes that call. To me, there's absolutely zero possibility that this is a hate crime. Zero possibility.
Yeah, no, and Terry Minane, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, he said 100%, Chief. That's really like half a spot on. So I'm 1.5 up on you, just so you know. I gotta count that. And I TC's comments comical, man. Actually, I want to change my opinion. The whole situation was SRG's fault. Can I be on the city council now? And just for 92 Charlie, I don't know what the outcome was, but I'm I think, I personally feel what the officer was saying and what was going on, that thing was just squashed. And I think Rabbi Shmuley would have put out that he had the guy arrested or anything else, but I didn't hear any follow up on that. But yeah, and I totally agree with you. There's nothing there. It was a made up, you know, to try to get more clicks on your social media and your camera and everything else. So, you know, that's what I think.
And 92 Charlie, this is my point. And again, it's an assumption on my part. And it's just from my perspective, what I believe may be causing some of the increase, right? So 92 Charlie says, unfortunately, the job will entertain this, and hate crimes will have to make the final decision. And not too sure they will say, no, it's not a hate crime. Well, that part I disagree with. I think that hate crimes is absolutely 100% going to, in very quick order, say that this is not a hate crime. Like the initial investigation is going to be fast tracked on this one. If it made its way past the captain and is determined as a possible bias incident, I would say that the hate crimes task force would look at this, and as soon as they look at this, they would be like I say to the two guys that fought in the bar, to the sergeant, like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. This is an obvious and blatant, not a bias incident. And then I used to, you know, I would school the sergeants. I wouldn't yell at them, you know, even when I get annoyed, I wouldn't yell at them. I would make it a learning lesson for the sergeant and say, listen, you have the ability to look at this and say, this is stupid. This is two idiots fighting over a girl. This is not bias. And don't be afraid to make that decision because it's so blatant, you know? And I would think that in quick order that they will, what about me, Terry? Come on. No love.
Thanks, Terry.
But he didn't give you a spot on. He said next time.
I know. It's the future, though. It's in the bank. I'm going to count it in the bank.
Hey, Terry, do I get a spot on? I called this like it was. Come on.
You can't ask for spot-ons. You can't.
No, you can't solicit them. You can't solicit them. No, I get
All
that.
right.
So listen, that's we're coming on 2 hours into it. You have anything else on this? I just think that we hit this pretty hard. You know, you got anything else on this?
No, I mean, I just, again, you know, shout out to those officers because they to me, that was textbook. I think they did a great job, and they showed their professionalism, and you know, they showed why we're all proud to be NYPD. I mean, I was happy to see that. So even a volatile situation like that, they diffused it. They used de-escalation. They used proper tactics. You know, everything. I thought it was great. You got out of the car as soon as he could, right? Because this way you're not at a disadvantage. And then he told his partner pulled over to the side. I thought it was textbook. So, but see, Terry's saying the chief was first, so I get the first one. But yeah, I was very, very happy to see that, and yeah, I hope that there wasn't a 61 prepared, and because I don't even think it had to go any further than the cops and the patrol supervisor. It should have ended right there because and there should be no paperwork on it at all. You have everything documented on your body worn camera, whatever, and I think to me that's enough. So I think they did a great job. So what do you got there? Anything or?
Yeah, I'm just reading because I'm going through the comments on Lily and Mike Fried going back and forth about the Jonathan Diller verdict that came down. So I'll just read it real quick. A lone juror threw the trial of NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's accused killer into disarray Wednesday, declaring he didn't agree with the verdict after the foreman read what was supposed to be their unanimous decision to acquit on murder but convict on aggravated manslaughter. So basically, the one juror is saying, I don't agree with that. It should be murder one, right? So the 8 men and foreman deciding 35-year-old ex-convict Guy Rivera's fate ended their first day of deliberations with an announcement they'd reached a verdict after just 4 hours. But when it came time to poll the individual jurors, juror number 5 was asked, is this your verdict? And he said no. So the word hit like a vinyl record scratch during an already emotionally scene as Dilla's wife Stephanie quietly cried as the supporter held her. Judge Michael Alois told the jurors their decision had to be unanimous and sent them back in for deliberations. A few minutes later, the jurors asked through a note how long they'd have to deliberate if they couldn't reach a verdict, and another juror asked to make a phone call to cancel a real estate appointment. Before juror number 5 dropped his bombshell, the foreman read a verdict of not guilty for first-degree murder, then guilty for first-degree aggravated manslaughter, attempted murder, and 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon. Earlier in the day, jurors asked to see a video compilation showing the deadly shooting, March 25, 2024 shooting, and asked for a readback of the elements needed to convict Rivera on the top charge against him. Prosecutors say Rivera deliberately shot the 31-year-old officer in the stomach on Mott Avenue in Far Rockaway in a violent attempt to blast his way out of a car stop that would have otherwise ended his arrest on the gun charge. His defense team argued that he didn't intend to shoot Dilla and that the gun in his pocket discharged after another officer, Sergeant Sasha Rosen, reached into the parked Kia where Rivera was sitting and grabbed the firearm during the struggle. Rivera also accused of aiming the gun at Rosen's chest point blank and trying to murder him as well, foiled when the .380 caliber handgun jammed. He's charged with first-degree murder, first-degree aggravated manslaughter related to Dilla's death. The jurors Wednesday morning that they can convict on other charges if they find him guilty. So it sounds like everybody but one juror wanted him to be not guilty of first-degree murder. And I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, just like 92 Charlie says, disgraceful. I mean, I don't understand it, you know? So it's a sad state where, you know, you have all the facts and everything else for the case, and then they come up with these verdicts. I don't understand it, you know? It is unbelievable.
All right, let's move into Ask an Executive.
Did you want to do the video or no?
Which video?
The aviation video or?
Oh yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we like to show. Hold on, I gotta bring it up. We like to we don't like to be totally negative, and we like to show and highlight like we did when we were on the job. The great work of the men and women of the NYPD. And the NYPD put out a video of aviation making a rescue out at sea. So this just shows the versatility. And Rob talks about it all the time. And he's got all the experience in the world as the executive officer of the Special Operations Division, which oversaw aviation and all that they do. They're not just up there doing patrol. You know, they do a lot. And this is one of the things where they did a medical evacuation off of a ship. Was it out in the Ambrose Channel? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know if it's probably out further down by Sandy Hook maybe or something, but yeah.
So let's take a look and watch. And I'm guessing that there was two helicopters out there, and one of them was taking a video of the second one.
Always is use a command, excuse me, a command and control helicopter, and then the rescue helicopter when it's available.
See, you learn something new every day. Informational here on the Executive Perspective. Rob Lukash with his nuggets. There we go. But let's take a look at the great work done by the men and women in the NYPD Aviation Unit. Great job. Cool stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to give kudos out to, well, I'll answer TC's question. I think it's added. I don't think they play that, but I have to give kudos to.
That's in the headsets when they're up in the
It's in the
helicopter, right?
Yeah.
They're sitting there going,
Yeah. Yeah. They're not listening to LaGuardia or Kennedy. They're just flying around with music on. I have to give kudos out to Jimmy Cohn, right? The former CO. He turned a lot of those airships into medevacs capability. I have to give a shout out to Andy Bouchard and Detective Dennis Canali, both two great guys that did a lot of training. They were TAC medics. They brought that whole TAC medic program to the police department, to the ESU, and they trained a lot of those crew chiefs that are on those helicopters as EMTs. So that the regional responsibility for aviation unit is a certain area around. So when the Coast Guard asks us to respond, obviously we're obligated to, and they do a great job. I mean, that's an exact example of what they do, what they're trained to do. You know, the care that they get, the medical care that they get on board en route helps. And from what I read, you know, that individual, you know, was fine. They've done it on cruise ships, they've done it on the freight liners and things like that. So I mean, and just think about it when you're out there. You know, they go far as down in Sandy Hook, New Jersey. So even if you're out on a boat in Sandy Hook and you call for a Mayday, you know, you get on the specific channel, I think it's channel 17, and request a Mayday, and the Coast Guard, they're going to respond. So, I mean, phenomenal job. I mean, and really, you think about the planning by Jimmy Cohn and the foresight and everything else to see that and put that together by the unit of aviation and ESU together. A phenomenal job. And what's the result? You're able to rescue and help people. I think it's phenomenal work, you know?
oh, Tom has joined us.
Oh,
Tom, how you feeling, Tom? These videos give you chills. So good. New school and badass. The old NYPD promotion video with James Earl Jones opening and Gloria Estefan reach. Unbelievable.
Yes.
True heroes. Yeah.
heroes.
And
Always heroes.
always heroes. But
Hey, can I just say something to Tom? I'm
Uh-oh.
Rob Lukash. I am not Joe Cortez.
Joe Cortez.
It's Cortez.
Last night
That's
on
it.
Tom's show, you got a little confused. I think it was it might have had something to do with the responders bourbon, first responders bourbon. But in the chat, they were speaking about facial recognition. And on April 15th, Rob's not going to be available. So I'm going to bring on Joe Cortez, retired inspector who specializes in facial recognition. Facial recognition technology. Yeah, it's my fault. Are you my wife now, Tom? Everything's my fault. Joe Cortez will be joining me, and we're going to be talking about facial recognition and a couple of cases where there were misidentifications and people were arrested due to misidentifications. And
I thought I was fired last night. I thought I got
Right.
terminated.
Tom,
You know,
Tom thought you were gone, and that I was bringing Joe Cortez in.
yeah,
Tonight.
I was checking my pulse and everything.
Oh, we love you, Tom. We love you.
Yeah. Yeah, TC.
You're dodging. TC says you're dodging the tax man. Dodging the tax man.
Mhm.
So, all right, let's move on. Great. Oh, and just another thing too. Just don't forget. Let's not forget the coordination with aviation and having the rescue swimmers on board from the scuba unit, and you know, like we see with the rescue divers from the Coast Guard, you know, dropping into the water from a helicopter. You know.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, so just phenomenal work all around, always, and it's nice to get those videos every now and then, so that we could highlight them here. We have no problem highlighting them here. We meant to play it last week, but we went long, and oh, Sleepy Joe, calm down. There's no 5 free spot-ons. It ain't happening. No, my friend. All right, let's move on to Ask an Executive. This is where Ron and Rob answer questions from the chat. a lot of times you don't have the availability of an inspector or a chief and the ability to go in and ask them any kind of questions. Here you have a retired inspector, retired deputy chief in the NYPD. So we open up to the chat. Anything that you want to ask us on topic, off topic. And if you are an active duty MOS and you cannot talk in the chat, please, you could DM us while we're off the air, because we're not going to answer on the air, at Exec Perspective on X. Our DMs are open to everybody, so it's at Exec Perspective. Or you could send us an email at theexecutiveperspective@gmail.com. Theexecutiveperspective@gmail.com. And we will get back to you. And if we feel it's an appropriate question, we will play that question. We will copy and paste that question, and we will answer it on the next show. Of course, your identity will remain anonymous if that's the way you wish it to be. And we will answer back to you. So, Rob, did you write anything down? You're our scribe during the show.
No, I really didn't see anything.
Yeah, I
think
didn't see anything either. Sleepy Joe is asking, do we store barriers anywhere other than the barrier section? A lot of times the borough will have a certain quantity of barriers available. And I know in Queens North, we used to store them at Citi Field, over by the Citi Field detail. So you could get barriers, because they use barriers during the events. And so that's where Queens North used to store them. But each patrol borough has their own quantity of barriers. So you can get, in short order, some barriers.
Yeah, I've seen some barrier trucks too at Floyd Bennett Field as well, that's stored down there.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that they keep some barrier trucks loaded and ready to go, because he's saying, always wondered how some barriers are deployed so quickly. Again,
Right, yeah.
on the local level, there are some barriers, not a full truckload, but there are some barriers that are readily available at the patrol borough level. And then the barrier section does have loaded barrier trucks ready to go. And then Detective Nolan 63, how do NYPD MOS assigned to protect the Mandami justify what they do to their friends and family? I don't know how to really answer that.
I mean, it's a tough question,
Listen, it's your job. It's your job to protect and serve everybody, right? So if you're listen, your hand chosen for those details. And if the mayor doesn't want you on that detail, you're not going to be on that detail. So when you're on those details, and if you don't feel comfortable, I'm sure you can ask to be removed. Yeah, I really can't answer it.
Hey, do you remember Charlene McCrae, right? De Blasio's wife? She had an issue because some of the cops complained about her that were on the executive protection detail with her, because she would smoke marijuana in the car. And they were concerned that the smoke in the car they would inhale and they would be popped on a dole test.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it like, to answer the question, I mean, yeah, is it hard to justify? Yeah, maybe, but it's still your job, right? So, you got to do it. I'm sure most of them are in there because they want to, and you know what? There's a little nepotism in that also. So then, they're probably going to get a shield out of it as well. So, but yeah.
And Mikey G saying, didn't that happen to somebody on her protection detail? Detective got doled off the job. I don't remember that.
There was a female officer, detective, I believe. There was something going on. I remember that, but I don't know if it was specifically because of that, or she blamed that, or whatever. But there was something. There was an involvement in that.
Did she blame swallowing something?
Yeah, yeah, she may have. I don't know. That's a meatball, remember? No.
Yeah. But Detective Nolan is saying yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I think it was something with her hair, and then she said extensions or something. I don't know. But the best story is that cocaine-induced meatball or something, wasn't it?
He's saying no. He's saying that's what it came from.
Oh, all right. But yeah, no, that was problematic. I remember people complaining about that.
Housing for Life, good, a good friend of the podcast, of the whole network. You're both retired. Ever run into a former subordinate who wasn't particularly enamored with you when you were active? I have not.
No,
Rob?
I haven't either. I've never done that. I mean, anything that I ever done, whether it was discipline or, I mean, listen, there was guys that pissed me off in ESU that got transferred from truck 9 to truck 2. So a little road therapy. But after that, when they came back to me and they said, "Hey, listen, let's make amends or whatever," then yeah, you want to go back to truck 9, no problem. So I never did anything where I would think somebody would want to, either piss on my grave or punch me in the nose if they saw me. So,
Oh.
but if I did see somebody that had that, listen, it's over, man. It's done. That's it. Nothing. It was not anything I did was impersonal. That's what I did everything as what I felt that was needed at the time. So there was definitely nothing personal with anybody. So
Yeah, and I think in your executive experiences, for the majority, when you were an impact captain and an XO as an executive when you first got promoted, I'm sure you ran into it a lot more because you're dealing with a different. I hate to use the word, but a different quality of worker, right? That people have a different work ethic when you're at the patrol level as opposed to the special operations division level. I think you have people that want to be there, that are highly motivated to be there, that have specialized training. So you're not dealing with as much mundane bullshit and malcontents, which I'm sure there were some in special operations, but I don't think it's as prevalent as you have on patrol. Whereas, I know I have some people that aren't so much fans of mine.
yeah,
We've seen one or two in the chat, but for the majority, I got to say I've been pleasantly surprised that I haven't had a lot of shade thrown at me in the chat, just because of the amount of time that I've spent out there and some decisions that I've had to make, whether it be discipline or transfers or lack of transfers, because I'm honest about your performance and I'm honest about promoting and propelling people's careers that deserve it and that are truly deserving of it. And some people believe they deserve it when they really don't. I remember I had people coming in and they had 3.5 evaluations, which is above meet standards, right? Meet standards is a 3.0. And they'd come into me and say, "Well, I got a 4 in the past. I deserve a 4." And I'd say, "Well, what do you do besides coming in and meeting standards?" And they'd be like going crazy, but like, "What did you do?" And they wouldn't be happy with it, right? Or people that was complete malcontents and zeros and they got their assignment changed or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, it's just because I'm an asshole and blah, 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 blah. It's got nothing to do with them. But I haven't run into anybody that's had the gumption, use that word again tonight, word of the night, gumption, the word of the night, gumption, to approach me and say something to me, to my face or anything like that. But I mean, again, it's never been personal, and I don't think it would ever get physical or anything like that. But there's one person that comes on the chat every now and then and actually puts out some misinformation and doesn't even know what they're talking about. So they're just, a malcontent. And again, you're never going to make everybody happy. And if you are, you're not doing your job. But never ran into anybody off duty. But then again, I mentioned this either last week or the week before, that the first police function that I've actually been to since I retired, other than a funeral, was a community council meeting back in the 110 precinct because Detective Dave Saponari was retiring. So that's the first time I was actually around a police function since I'm retired. But again, that's also at a police function, so I don't think anybody's going to act the fool there, more of a chance of it happening if you ran into somebody in a mall or something like that. But no.
Mikey G has a question there.
You think the verdict in the murder case of Detective Diller was pushed through because nobody wants to be there for Easter break? No, I don't think so, because they would give more for Easter. They're not going to sequester the jury. There's no reason to sequester this jury. It came back with 4 hours. In 4 hours, it came back. So I think that they had their mind made up that it wasn't murder one. But for some reason, there was confusion, I guess, that when they, asked for, they went down the line. One guy said, "No, that's not my verdict." So now they're at an impasse where, it could be a hung jury on that top charge now, where they could actually retry for the first degree murder if they wanted to, or just accept the manslaughter one.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a sad day, really is, when you can't, you have a police officer that's killed like that, and you can't come to a conclusion. I mean, if I was the chairperson, or I would be shocked that that guy said something after that. That's that stuff that you're supposed to do, is stuff you're supposed to say inside when you're deliberating. Imagine coming out and saying that. That's I don't know. That should have been spoken to about, inside there. So something nefarious. I don't know.
I'm just Googling Mikey G's question.
About the taking off? Oh no.
Sentence.
Oh, manslaughter. Okay.
5 to 25 years in state prison.
I get 5 years. That's all I'll get.
A minimum sentence of 5 years and post-release supervision.
And I agree with Ruben Alvarez right there. It's very well handled by those SRG officers, and some city council members are watching. This is why you don't need to disband SRG.
Oh,
Absolutely.
no, Rob. SRG are
He's gone.
racist and
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. I know. You saw
They're
that.
not professional.
I know.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Because then we're going to go through the upcoming shows, and then we have a little bit of an announcement.
No, I got nothing else. Yeah.
Anybody else have any more questions? All right. So upcoming on Friday, we have, let me get rid of this. Upcoming on Friday, we have the return of John, Eric, and Marlon on the New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast, where they will talk about current events in the NYPD, current scandals that are going on in the NYPD. And I'm sure that this case with Jonathan Diller will be part of the conversation, without a doubt, on Friday with the roundtable. You can go back and watch the show. Who was on the show? It was a retired captain. I wrote it down.
John Monahan.
Right. John Monahan was on the show. Oh, here we go. Retired Captain John Monahan. I did not get a chance to see the show today. I have to watch it on the rewind. But I heard it was a very good show. He memorialized his career and then his life after the job. He's an expert witness and author, and he's also a founder of the Key Promotional School. So I know they went into that because the Key is a sponsor of their show now. He went into how it's. I did catch part of it when he was speaking on how the school started, when the school started. He remembers the day the school started, and then he's talking about the different instructors that they brought on and their qualifications. Very qualified group of men and women who teach at the Key. So go back and check out today's show for retired Captain John Monahan, and then they'll be back on Friday. And then again on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 0805 on New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast network. And then, what did I do? I deleted Tommy. 1 second, I'm sorry. took it down. And then you'll have go back last night on the 10-4 Tavern. Another great episode by Tommy Joyce and Pete Faselli. Tommy gave Pete a little time off. Gave him an early blow last night. But a great show with a former Brooklyn ADA, Anna Siga, not Anna, Anna Siga Nicolazzi. She was a Brooklyn ADA homicide prosecutor. She prosecuted, as you can see here, the case for Russell Timoshenko. So they went over part of that case. It was great to see a I don't want to say non-law enforcement, because she's a prosecutor. She's part of the law enforcement community. She's part of the criminal justice system. But it was great to hear the perspective of a prosecutor, what they expect from us as the NYPD, us as police and detectives, to come forward and the best way to present and to preserve evidence, the best way to be forthright. And it was just great to hear her perspective. She's a very positive person, very positive attitude. She's now the host of Anatomy of a Murder, True Conviction, and the Law and Order Criminal Justice System podcasts, where they go over criminal cases. So definitely go back and check out the 10-4 Tavern from last night. And then they'll be back. Well, the 10-4 Tavern will be back next Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Tommy is he's going to be floating around in the middle of the ocean enjoying a cocktail. Other than at the 10-4 Tavern, they're going to have a special guest host, yours truly. I'll be co-hosting with Pete Faselli next Tuesday at 7:05, and we're going to have on a retired ATF undercover, Lou Velozzi, who is now an author and a co-host of a TV show about undercover work. So check us out next Tuesday. I'll be on with Pete. Pete's got this guest, and it's going to be intriguing to hear the words of someone who worked undercover to take deadly firearms out of the hands of some dangerous people. So it's going to be great to hear about that. Always a great show, always great guests. So that, and then as far as the executive perspective, so 1 second on this. With the executive perspective, we do have an announcement to make that tonight is going to be our last show. Yeah, the executive perspective is going to come off the air after tonight's show. So we really appreciate all the support and everything else that you've brought to us throughout this past little over a year. Rob, any?
No, I just, yeah, I mean, it's a sad day that it's the end of the executive perspective. I do want to tell everybody have a happy Easter and a happy Passover. You know, if you're doing your Seder tonight, enjoy. But yeah, I mean, it's disheartening that this has to happen on this date today. And that we have to end the executive perspective. But Ron, maybe you could explain why we picked this date.
Get the hell out of here! We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We're having too much fun. That's right, Lily. April Fools, 92 Charlie. You got it. That's it. We're two kids at heart. What can we say? You know, we're the elder statesmen, but we're just joking around with you guys. We will be back next Wednesday, 5:05 p.m. right here for the executive perspective. Once again, thank you everybody in the chat. Thank you for the continued support. It's great to see that we have some new people joining us in the chat. That makes us feel good that that we're growing our audience. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you can see all the shows when they're upcoming with the New York's Finest Pride and Unfiltered podcast, the 10-4 Tavern, and the Executive Perspective here on the Finest Unfiltered Network. So we appreciate you. And until next week, everybody be safe. Thank you.
Take care.
We really appreciate
you.
it.